Hello, you're listening to the Robot Wars History podcast, a podcast where we chart the development of the show and the British robot combat scene in general by looking at key teams and bots. I'm your host Luke, and with me today is Nick.
Hello.
Dan.
Hi.
And our special guest for today, a Mr. Jimjamatic.
Hello there. Nice to be here.
Well, welcome. You've crossed over to our side now.
Yes, this is the second time doing this.
Yeah, Luke, I'd just like to say I find it quite telling that you didn't say, and with me as always are my co-hosts Dan and Nick, because we never do episodes together anymore.
Yeah, there is no coherent lineup through this thing. It's just whoever, whenever.
I'm your host Toast, and with me as always is TG and Nick.
Yeah,
that's more accurate.
We have no idea when it's just like, oh yeah, look, Nick and Toast met up in real life again and just recorded a podcast episode because they felt like it.
Wow, TG has just flown from Australia to America to record with Mike. Awesome. Anyway, today we are covering a very entertaining topic. We are covering the shitbots of Series 3, or more accurately, the top 10 shitbots, because actual shitbots of Series 3, 10 parts.
That is true.
If you want to get a measure of all of the shit robots in Series 3 and have somebody mocking them, just go watch the live reviews again.
Yeah. Yes.
Because there are at least 3 in every episode.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Even in like a all-time classic heat, like Cassius's heat, you have things like Dundee and Zeus in there, and Plunderstorm and Thermidor.
In fairness, Dundee wasn't that bad.
Oh yeah, but I don't think it was that good either, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, before we start on the actual list, we have to give an honourable mention, and this honourable mention goes out to all the bots who entered the arena and then never moved.
Oh boy, and there were quite a few of them.
Oh boy.
We could have made an entire separate list of these machines, and the only reason we did it was because there's no content. It's just like, this robot didn't move, and this robot also didn't move.
Yeah, believe me, trying to expand the max damage page on the wiki is kind of a hard task at times.
But why would you want to?
Good question.
Some people are dedicated to the cause of the wiki.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean,
max damage is the one that gets brought up the most of these. I think it sticks in everyone's memory a bit more than a lot of the others, because it's just like, it has something remotely unique about it. It's not just another generic robot that didn't work. It's like this fiberglass Triceratops with a chainsaw sticking out of it.
That didn't work.
Yeah, actually looks almost like somebody put some effort into it. Almost.
I mean, a lot of people tend to forget that actually a robot that was included in this category is Bulldog Breed.
Yeah, that is
sad.
odd, because when you think of Bulldog Breed, you do think of it like romping the Extreme 2 tag team, or just it being at least marginally competent in its following series, and that no, in this case it didn't fucking work.
I mean, at least we now have proof that RoboPig would also Uta and dominate Pussycat, so that's handy.
Oh, that is true. I mean, the saddest one for me was Vector, because it actually looked kind of good. And then it loses to a robot that drove itself into the pit, so...
the amazing thing about max damage specifically is that the reason it didn't work wasn't because it had been engineered poorly or anything. They just forgot to plug the link in.
Jesus.
That happened more times. That kind of thing, like forgetting to plug a link in or forgetting to charge the batteries, happens disturbingly often in the early series. Often
you can just imagine the dad on the team, like, painting the entire fiberglass shell, making sure it's all nice and well done, ready for TV aesthetically. And then the kid on the team's just like, "Hey, Dad, make sure you actually plug it in." And he's like, "No, I'm still doing the fiberglass, but don't worry, I'll plug it in." And then once they get in the arena, you didn't plug it in, did you, Dad?
Well,
No, I didn't.
Well, the
About
thing-
that.
It did qualify. It must have gone through the qualifying round they had before Series 3.
Yeah.
So it must have worked there because that was a fucking obstacle course.
But yes, to the max damages, the vectors, the bulldog breeds and plunder storms of the world, this one goes out to you.
Oh boy.
And now on to the list proper. In at number 10, we have a strong start with good old Binky.
Hope that was said with sarcasm. He ended up
No,
starting.
Binky was actually a substitute for a robot called Daisy, which, honestly, if it had entered, it'd probably be on this list by the look of it.
Yeah.
One particularly amusing thing is, Binky claimed a top speed of 50 miles an hour. This thing could have broke the speed limit, according to them.
What is it with Series 3 and claiming outrageously high top speeds? Because Facet claimed, was it 40 as well?
Yeah, I can only imagine it's like maybe what the motors can get at peak performance conceptually. But I mean, when you see Binky in the arena, it manages what, 5 miles an hour maybe?
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at something like even 4 in the reboot arena, where it's got like a top speed of, is it 20? But even there, with the arena that bit bigger than Series 3, 4 never needs to get beyond, say, 10 when it has a long charge.
Yeah.
Don't understand why 40 would need to come into play.
Well, you see,
It claims it goes at 50 miles per hour, but it's powered by a scooter engine. And
Right.
scooters are not renowned for being the most speedy vehicles. Yeah, a large portion of them couldn't go above 30. So,
well, the thing is, Binky has a lot of weird claims because they claim 12-wheel drive, but when you see them overturned, there's just these two big ones in the middle.
Yeah, I've always found that a bit strange. I mean, the wheels seem to just be right next to each other as well. Like, there isn't even a gap. It's just like two wheels welded into the middle.
Maybe if they had all 12 wheels, they could reach 50. Like, if they had them all.
Yeah, they probably mean that they brought 12 tyres with them to the show. But they only have one wheel drive at a time.
I mean,
what the f is this thing's weapon?
it's the battle sled.
It looks like it should be like a massive flipper, doesn't it?
You think
Yeah,
so?
you look at how Atomic was in Series 7 with that big bulldozer flipper that can deflect spinners, that could get really good angles to flip robots out of the arena. And then this is the equivalent if Atomic was made into a mini-bot with a static weapon. It doesn't move. And it doesn't do anything. Oh, Binky.
I mean,
what were you trying?
I mean, what really annoys me about this thing is just the logistics of it. It's supposed to be like a wedge that's really fast and stuff, but it has those two wheels mounted together, and the turret spins round independent of the wedge.
Well, yeah, it's essentially like trying to be precise with the wedge, but its body acts like a full body spinner. So
Yeah.
of course it's not going to be precise.
Because that one bit where it tries to go after Agrabot after the turret has spun round a tiny bit, and it just lurches to the side.
Yeah, and then gets itself stuck on the spikes.
Yeah, it spends its only battle basically stuck near the wall getting stabbed by Agrabot.
Stabbed in the loosest terms.
Yeah.
But I just don't get it. Like, it's just one of those robots that just annoys me. And we're on a number 10.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it only gets
mean,
better from here.
The one redeeming feature is that Binky is the name of my cat. So,
Named after the bot, I assume.
thankfully not. I'm not that bad of a Robot Wars fan. That was its actual name when we got it. But, I mean, I do think I'd rather call it Binky than Agent Orange, but no, it wasn't my choice.
Named after a nerve agent. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, one last note on the weapon, though, because they said they have the battle sled, but it also says in the stat board it has a thing called a nose axe.
Oh, yeah.
Where?
I think that's a classic Series 3 thing. It has a secondary weapon that you never see, that you can't tell is there until you read about it.
It's like the Firestorm spike.
Yeah.
But no, I hate this thing.
Yeah. Well, moving on to number 9. From one big bot to another, we have Abaddon. Now,
Oh boy.
Abaddon, when you see it head on in its intro shot, it just looks like it's a normal robot with the rotavators. It's not until you get the full view of the fight of the arena that you see this thing is nearly 2.5 meters long.
Yeah, it's the second longest robot to ever enter the series.
Yeah, this is definitely the definition of a Series 1 to 3 design, where you just strap something stupid on there as well for no reason that completely screws your design over. Like, Abaddon didn't look good with its just front on. Those rotors looked bad. The wheels were a bit big. The design was a bit narrow, a bit too wide, should I say. But, you know, it could have been maybe acceptable without the tail. But then they had the tail.
It's so long. It's stupidly long.
Also, the fact they had to get rid of the ball and replace it with like a little caster wheel because they were overweight, and it just fell off.
I mean, when you look at the body of the thing, it looks like it should be about 50 kilograms. So just how much did that tail add on?
I mean, they are bare. I mean, they are about 8 to 1.5 kilos, which is pushing the weight limit for Series 3. So,
the
Jesus.
thing is, though, with how long robots can take to build, this thing was surely built with the gauntlet in mind. And
Oh,
not
no.
Just purely battles. Imagine this thing trying to navigate the ramp.
Oh no.
Oh, the ram rig.
Or the ram rig, yeah. I mean,
Tries
the
to go-
Sentinel would probably just pick it up if it went down the right.
Personally, I'd love to see this thing in the sumo. That would be
Right, you go to the maze.
that'd been fit on the sumo wing. Well, or
Wow.
labyrinth. That'd been funny.
The thing is, this thing's full of surprises. Because when it actually gets into the battle against Technophobic, the rotavators on front are also a lifter. It's like, how many weapons did they want to put on this thing?
I mean, you can count the revolutions on it on one hand.
I'm surprised there's not like flails on the wheels or something.
Are we sure this thing wasn't made in Robot Arena 2?
I've actually made a bad in a Robot Arena 2, and it was shit.
What a surprise!
No,
Well, at least it was realistic.
I mean, in fairness, it's got an appropriate name. It's Abaddon.
Yeah, this machine is certainly a bad one.
Good God.
The thing is, if it didn't have its tail, it might have stood a chance against Technophobic because it's doing what counts for damage in Series 3, which is ripping off little flakes of fiberglass. But then its massive tail, the caster falls off and it gets stuck in the flame pit.
Well,
Like,
yeah. I mean, Technophobic only really lifted this thing up by manoeuvring to the back and lifting up its tail. I don't think it would have ever really been able to properly attack the front of it.
Not particularly.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, this is Series 3 where robots try and make themselves lose. And that even goes for Razor, unfortunately.
Well, I think that's enough time spent on this bad one. Moving on to number 8, we have a robot which sadly never saw a combat fight. Was only present for football. We are talking, of course, of Triangular Spectre, which is literally a triangle.
Yeah, with 10 billion centimeters of ground clearance for a wedge.
Oh, guys, putting football boots doesn't make your robot good at football.
Oh, that's shit.
It's that the image of its football boots is just tragic. Especially
I mean,
when you
at least there wasn't like the promise of a Granny's Revenge-esque CO2 flipper with
Oh,
these
dear.
boots moving into the air or anything. But Just imagine them flying off like chronic spines or something.
Oh dear! It's even more tragic when you see who it's against in football. Just the big beefy general with its massive four wheels, its big plough, which inevitably wins the soccer. Inevitably beats them in soccer. It's just oh dear.
Yeah,
You
I
never had a
think this comparison of machines would be like the true definition of what people think a BattleBots robot was and what people think a Robot Wars robot was. You just have the boring wedge with wheels on one side, and you have this thing on the other side.
Yeah.
That's never going to win the fight, but it's there for aesthetics. And it's another machine that gets into Robot Wars purely by having a face.
True.
Oh, God.
One thing I want to point out is the little spike you see hanging down the middle. That was a pickaxe. Now, this team tried to enter Series 5 and 6 with a Spectre 2, and they intended to use that pickaxe. Imagine.
Oh,
And
Lord.
Terahertz is taking more damage.
The Terahertz panic attack fight, but it's Spectre 2's pickaxe.
Oh, the blows raining down from Spectre. Kim Davis can't hold it off.
The thing is, this was probably built actually intended for combat
Yeah.
because it has a weapon, and the football boots are covering up spikes. But it was 63 kilograms, and it had that much ground clearance.
It would have lost by just taking a hard turn.
It would just gone on the spike on the arena floor and just got flipped over in 2 seconds.
Yeah, that, to be fair, that happened to robots regardless of their quality in Series 3.
Yeah, even happened in the football afterwards with the Alien, wasn't it? I think that.
Yeah, I mean, Spectre's ground clearance is so high that it will probably miss the arena spike even if it goes directly over it. So
Yeah, I've
I
got to
think
give
it might be okay there.
I've got to give it props for the 10 out of 10 paintwork on it, though. I mean,
Well, I've got to give it props for returning 2 decades later and winning King of Bots Series 1. That was an impressive turnaround.
I know. I mean, from a design like this to that, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
They did copy Razor's homework on that one.
They
Well-
improved on the homework.
True.
Moving on to our number 7 entry, Crash and Asher.
Yay.
I don't know what to say here, really. It's Crash and Asher.
This thing was in a game.
Yeah.
That's going to be a somewhat recurring feature on this.
Yeah, something tells me the people who put together the Robot Wars Game Boy game didn't spend much time watching the show. Just a thought.
That's
Yeah.
very possible. Crash and Asher. I mean, just fucking look at it.
To be fair, it looks like it might be like passable for Series 3. What with the big old saw sticking out, but in its first fight, it loses to a flipper by the flipper driving into it.
It didn't even use the flipper.
It looks like a regular Commodore Garden enemy from a Sonic game.
Yeah.
like when this thing flipped over in a cloud of smoke, a small animal should have come running out of
No, I can't believe it.
You know what it does remind me of? This looks like it should be a round 1 dropout in like Dutch or German wars.
Oh, it actually
absolutely.
does as well. Like particularly the Dutch wars, we had things like Lethal Swan.
Yeah.
Oh, the animal battle, Lethal Swan v Crash and Asher.
Oh
They
dear.
both just fall apart before they reach each other.
I mean, also I like the fact it's like you said before, the recurring theme of having multiple weapons. You had the saw and that random, literally it was
Oh,
a wasted opportunity to make it a
no.
hammerhead, and they didn't.
Not the bloody sideways hammer tail.
It did so much
And-
damage to Firestorm.
Another entry in secondary weapons you wouldn't know about until you read about them.
No, it's not very visible until they even mentioned it, or you just kind of go, "Oh yeah, that was a thing."
I do kind of want to see it fight Sharkoprion.
Oh dear.
Oof. They should have put this guy against Shark Attack for the most boring fight ever.
Oh god.
I mean, from an aesthetic point of view, I kind of like Crash and Nash, but it's not like pleasing.
It does look nice, yes.
I mean, it's not a combat robot on the slightest. I mean, it actually at least I'm gonna remember this thing. I mean, there are robots in Series 3 like Crippler, Brimher, maybe even like Red Dragon or something. I'm not gonna remember that one too much, but this thing, and there's a few other robots on this list later. I'm gonna remember this, even if it's trash. I can't deny it's memorable.
Yeah, and I mean, if you needed any further proof of the artistic capabilities of the team, then just have a look at their controller. They have dangling off of it.
Oh, the fish.
Yeah, a literal silhouette of a fish.
It's beautiful.
It's something, and it adds to the Crash and Nasher aesthetic, I guess.
I mean, if I had to go through like my top 10 like favorite KOs in the series, I actually do rank this one very high just for the comedy factor of it. How Firestorm didn't even use its weapon; it rammed into it, and then just with its speed alone, it just flipped over, and then even Crash and Nash looked like surprised by how it fell over.
It's the way that Crash and Nasher is just visibly like imploding as Firestorm touches it as well.
It just goes up in a cloud of smoke.
Yeah, if it just fell over normally, if it just fell over by moving over Firestorm's wedge in a way like Roadblock or something, then it would be a bit less dramatic. But here, it just snaps its own neck back and blows up while falling over. It's hilarious.
Where the fuck did the smoke come from?
I think it's from either from the engine or I think the saw breaking through the armor.
Well, I mean, look at that devastating spinning weapon. It needs to have an internal combustion engine to power that thing. Come on.
God. And I don't know how it happened, but I liked when Dead Metal tried to, was tacking it with a saw, that the wheel, the back just flew off.
Oh, I forgot.
It was just like the Series 1 saw that Sergeant Bash had. It just disappeared.
Amazing. It probably went right up and nearly hit Craig in the head, and then they had to cancel filming because of safety.
Are we
Craig
sure?
Charles nearly decapitated by Crash and Nash's wheel.
Are we sure? Are we sure the like dust wasn't just like the impact of Firestorm's ramming just like completely shattered its chassis?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Does it have a chassis? Let's be honest.
I don't know.
No, it's just pieces of metal surrounding it, but not even like fully.
Pieces of metal held together by hope and not a lot else.
Like, where do the motors of this thing? Where are they?
I think it's in the middle. I think it's in the middle bit. 'Cause that's the only part that's like semi-protected. Everything else isn't really.
Looking at a picture, I'm half certain that they are just attached straight onto the wheels and just hanging out below the underside of the robot.
You can see the you can see the CO like a CO2 canister directly under, like right in the jaw.
Pneumatic saw.
Jesus, I don't know if it was the petrol. I don't know what it was, but it's just so. Someone could just easily just knock that out.
Pneumatic saw sounds about right for the Crash and Asher team, honestly.
True.
A hydraulic saw. Come on, upgrade it further.
Well, moving on from one memorable bot to another, or rather a duo of bots, we have the cream of the Walker bot. Son of Waiachi, move over. Anarchy, step aside. We have Stomp and Mammoth.
Oh, where do we begin?
What even are these?
I mean,
Now, go on.
I was gonna say with Stomp, I like the fact that even though well, let's face it, this should be also in the honourable category of robots that didn't actually move. It managed to at least attack? Question mark?
In a sense. Yeah, it's the image of Stomp smashing its legs on the ground and then trying to spin around to attack Miss Struts is Sisyphean in its futility.
Well, at least we can. Was watching this fight and was inspired to make Typhoon 2 from that. full body capabilities from this machine.
To be fair, if Misstruts had been just a little less stable, this probably would have worked. If this had been Millennium Bug, this attack would have worked.
Yeah, I mean, the really shocking thing about this robot is that they tried to make a second one.
Yeah.
It
completed
was just Stomp 2, all one word, and it wasn't ready in time for Series 4, so they were going to aim for Series 5 instead.
This would have beaten Juggernaut at least, let's be real.
It's true.
Stomp versus Black Widow in round 1, boys.
No, Stomp versus 11.
Oh.
That'd be worse.
God, that's actually a battle that I think Black Widow might actually win.
Series 5 just turns into a Walker tournament.
Oh. Let's get Drillzilla in there to make something slightly interesting.
Nah, Drillzilla wouldn't beat Claude Hopper, come on.
Nah, that's true. Let's get really beat Twist after all.
I mean, Stomp is interesting, but I think what's even more notable is the one is Mammoth, who managed a career somehow.
Yeah, Mammoth existed.
Yeah, he got off to a sterling start in its battle against Anarachnid, where only one half of the legs worked, and despite being set on fire, it still ended the battle in a better condition than Anarachnid, which was just completely smashed to pieces.
Yeah, the legs were just shattered.
Yeah.
God, most of its legs aren't even on the floor.
No. It actually, the original Mammoth looks like those kind of like oil rigs.
Yeah.
But the Mammoth Legacy is just hilarious to me. I mean, I think the best stuff they did wasn't even like in Robot Wars, is when they entered Techno Games and tried to do the triathlon. And, you know, the only event it worked in was the walking. I wonder why that is.
Literally every Mammoth fight is hilarious. In Extreme, it immediately gets its legs ripped apart by Typhoon, and the image of Typhoon, this incredibly competent, like, full-body spinner, and then Mammoth with its, like, spindly legs trying to rustle around on the ground is incredible.
Honestly, crap walkers versus spinners is always hilarious.
Oh, it is.
I mean, its peak was in Series 7, where it scores the slowest pitting imaginable, and then gets overturned by Mini Dan Tom Kia.
I mean, according to
legacy.
According to the stats, the Series 3 Mammoth had a lifting arm.
Where?
I don't know. It was made out of a garden hoe. So...
Is this the equivalent of when Struts in the Series 2 Reserve Rumble tried to use its legs to lift things?
Yeah.
Is that what they were going for here as well?
I mean, if I remember correctly, Mammoth has like a laser viewfinder in its head.
I thought it was a camera for ages.
Because was it the Anarachnid team who said that their machine can't be detected by radar?
Oh dear.
Why would you? That's the better
weapon.
Should have gone for it. Should have had a tag team with stealth lads.
Oh god. Yeah, the thing that's baffling about these two walkers though is that, like, did they not get the extra weight limit in Series 3? Because, like, Mammoth weighs 46 kilograms.
It's literally if it was 1 kilogram, if it was 2 kilograms less, it'd classify as a middleweight.
And then Stomp only weighs 73. Did they not get the extra weight limit until Series 4?
I mean, if they tried to put anything more on them, they wouldn't be able. I mean, they didn't move anywhere, so I don't know what I'm saying.
I mean, can we just be reminded that Mammoth in Series 3 is 1 kilogram heavier than Sweeney Todd? Just wow.
I think that says more about Sweeney Todd than anything.
Yeah, it kind of does.
What the fuck was Sweeney Todd doing there?
Something.
Oh, but you know what? One of my biggest Robot Wars grievances of all time is after so many amazing things happening in this show's history, after fight, classic moments, we never got the true title deciding fight between the Series 3 walkers. That is criminal.
Well, yeah,
And
because there was nothing left of Anarachnid or Mammoth, so...
Well, yeah, but you gotta chuck them back in again. I'm sure Toast will be emailing all the teams involved to see if the final was untelevised or not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Miss Struts deserves a champion title.
Wow.
I'm sorry, in the chat I just posted the mammoth mascot.
Oh, that's what that was.
That's what that was. Oh,
yeah, it's the
no.
mascot they had, the hand with the googly eyes on it.
Oh.
Honestly, Mammoth are an underrated team.
I do love him. I love him.
Can we make the mammoth mascot fight Bucky the mascot?
Oh, that would be amazing. I mean, first, this team has, I think they've earned a silver or bronze medal in Technogames, so they're not that bad.
And they earned a gold medal for our hearts in Series 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And now, from a robot that earned the gold medal of our hearts to the robot that I think none of us wants to remember ever again. Purple Predator.
Another star of Robot Wars Metal Mayhem.
What was this game? Just
Oh god.
Not very good.
I mean, Ultor was going to be in it as well.
The thing is, Metal Mayhem features more than 0 robots that are on this list, which is, not looking great for it.
No. The thing I most regret about Purple Predator is the fact that it was the only fur-covered robot that didn't set fire. Like,
this thing deserved it.
Yeah.
To be fair, they made that up with interest with the bots they used after Purple Predator, but it is still very disappointing.
Yeah. Just as a side note, this team went on to make Granny's Revenge, so a sterling legacy.
At least Granny's Revenge was fun.
Yeah. This thing's just confusing.
I mean, it's covered in fur, but other fur-covered robots are like colourful and they look fun. This thing, I would dread to run a bloody blue blacklight over this thing.
It just looks like a giant couch.
I mean, I'll give these guys credit. Grey and Bone and Hazel Heslop, they were thinking of ways to make Firestorm's wedge precision milled for years. It wasn't until Extreme 2 where they actually put this steel strip on the front of it, but these guys, first time asking, they just coated their wedge in fur, so
yeah, they coated their wedge
in. Going to get under everything.
Well, they coated their wedge in fur, and to make it extra safe, they made it hover about 10 centimeters off the ground.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to beat Razor with that type of ground clearance.
I have never seen that much ground clearance on a bot that's meant to be a wedge flipper.
that is one thing I love about this thing, because this thing is massive. It's 1.6 meters long, and it's a front hinge flipper, and the flipper runs the entire length of it. Now, looking at that, you think if this thing was on the ground, imagine the power that it'd have if it was a competent flipper.
Yeah, the fur makes it worse though.
Imagine Purple Predator with Wheelie McCheese Series 5 power.
Oh Jesus!
Axel goes on top of Purple Predator's flipper and gets hurled into Craig Charles's face.
Why are you trying to hurt Craig Charles so much?
Oh god! He doesn't actually stand there while the fights are going on, right?
Yes, he does.
Well, you should have told Jeremy Clarkson that in Series 1 before he nearly got beheaded, but...
There are some people who would think that would be an improvement there.
I mean, one notable thing is you're talking about the flipper, but there's a saw at the back as well, which fell off because they backed into the wall.
Oh, look, it's yet another entry into these Series 3 weapons that you wouldn't know were actually there until you had them shown to you.
Well, first, I knew someone existed because I remember seeing it back into the wall and just the thing would fall off.
I love the size disparity as well. The flipper panel is one of the biggest we ever see, and then the saw is just tiny.
This looks like something that you could make in Arenas of Destruction.
It really does.
It's got too much ground clearance. It's got casters on the front. It's got a massive front hinge flipper with a saw blade on the back, and it's got a crap toy stuck to the top of it.
Oh, the toy! I forgot about the mascot they had.
Yeah,
the Yoda with the Action Man and the purple fur and Deator fur.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
no
original.
comment on that.
I don't know
Yeah.
how it relates, but whatever.
The best thing about this, though, is that the wiki lists this thing's ground clearance as 0.
Bullshit.
That's why, yeah, because the bottom of the tires meets the ground perfectly.
Oh, yeah, I suppose you're right.
That is genuinely how they would have measured ground clearance up until like Series 5.
Is your
Yeah.
wheel on the ground? Yes.
And speaking of Series 5, it actually fought in a 6-way qualifier battle for Series 5.
No.
Alongside the team's own second robot, Granny's Revenge, Ratus, Rhubarb, and then Razor was in there as well as Shunt.
Oh,
And I
Dear.
want to see this fight because I'm just imagining just Shunt just tearing apart these crap robots and Razor just mangling half of them as well. And it's not even a fight. Or the others just go and die in a corner and Razor spends the entire battle hooked onto one of Shunt's plows.
I mean, what do you think the odds are that they'd literally use the same Purple Predator from Series 3 and Series 5?
Like the same. It would be that robot.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you can lose to Toe Cutter, that says a lot.
Well, they actually...
The Toe Cutter did have one of the deadliest weapons ever seen in Robot Wars, the legendary Sire of Watermelons.
And ripping
Well,
a fur.
You see, it was actually the same Purple Predator. They used all the extra weight to make it the most powerful pneumatics in the show ever saw, but the wedge still wasn't on the floor, so they just never got a chance.
They can claim that it would be the most powerful flipper the show's ever saw, but in the New Blood, the chip guys claim that their spinner was better than Hypnodisc's, and they couldn't even damage RT-81, so... Colour me unimpressed there.
Just a bit.
Everybody says their robot's better than everybody else's robot, right up until it's time to actually prove it.
Yeah.
Gotta put your money where your mouth is.
Well, on from Purple Predator to the only robot on this list to actually win a fight.
Wow.
And sadly, that robot was Flip Flop Fly.
Uh,
Watching this fight is like dragging your eyes through gravel.
it's more frustrating by the fact that they lost. They won their first battle through absolute bullshit. They were dead, pretty much, just sat in the middle of the arena, just twitching. And then, of course, Wild Willie drove into the pit by accident, and then they're through.
Nick, do you want to rhapsodize on the injustice of its its win over Wild Willie?
This fight creates a lot of sadness inside of me because I am a big advocate of Wild Willie having the quality to get through to the semi-finals of Series 3, potentially even the grand final. So, and I am serious there, by the way, for people listening. It sounds a bit far out, but...
You can't see me right now, but my eyebrows are raised incredibly high.
Yes, but nevertheless, Flip Flop Fly... this is the equivalent of Razor Tornado in Series 6. This is absolutely ridiculous that this thing gets the win. It was immobilized because of Wild Willie's fantastic drives across the arena and then use of the arena hazards. And it should have been counted out. You know, I mean, in Series 1, Prince of Darkness had a pop tyre. It was never technically immobile, but they counted that as a knockout for Tracy. So, as far as I'm aware, Wild Willie was robbed here, and Flip Flop Fly, it beats one of the best machines in the series by doing nothing. So, as far as I'm aware, it should be number 1 in this list.
Flip Flop Fly.
What you're saying is we need to get Mike on this podcast right now so that we can have him wax poetic about why there shouldn't be a pit in Robot Wars.
Call him.
Flip Flop Fly, its wings come down with the force of a feather lightly touching down to earth.
Tiny little axe they have.
What? Yeah. Another
worst
case
things.
of what the fuck is that weapon?
Yeah, I've just now remembered one of the worst things in Series 3 when, in the round 2 fight, Flip Flop Fly has this compelling, and by compelling I mean completely boring, tussle with Shunt, where Shunt fires its axe and Flip Flop Fly swings its weapon in retaliation. And JP goes so over the top. He's like, the two devilish axes collide. And just to make it even worse, they had that bloody over-the-top crowd sound effect cheering of that really high-pitched wail. And just imagine the crowd actually going that over the top for Flip Flop Fly connecting with Shunt's weapon. You just have a kid in the crowd who is so over the moon with Flip Flop Fly attacking Shunt that you hear this banshee scream. Oh my god.
That fucking banshee scream.
It's just they used it so often.
They did.
Flip Flop Fly against Panic Attack in Series 6. The blows are raining down from Flip Flop Fly.
Its fight against Evil Weevil might genuinely be one of the worst the show ever had, if not the worst.
It's one of the most forgettable because I have a rather unhealthy of Robot Wars fights. Like, you could name most random fights in the show's history and I'd be able to recall things from it. But this, I can't really say anything bar that thing that I said about in the CPZ. I genuinely can't remember what happens.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to remember. It's mostly just Evil Weevil lifting it and trying to do something with it, but it can't because it's a big bloody barrel.
And also, Flip Flop Fly's batteries didn't even last 5 minutes.
Good God. So it was bound to lose anyway.
Yeah.
It somehow made it to round 2, despite the fact it couldn't last 5 minutes.
Now the thing is, though, I'd be more annoyed at Flip Flop 5 if these guys hadn't made the tetanus robots. You know, that at least makes up for it.
There is a redemption there. You can say that is a thing that happened.
Some crimes can never be forgiven.
That's also true.
The sins of the
crimes that shook Britain.
Flip Flop Fly next to the Brady killer. Oh dear. Well, from one devastating axe to another, we move on to Sergeant Meekle.
Oh boy.
Sergeant Meekle was built by 13 people over 7 months.
What?
Now I don't know.
What?
That either makes its complete incompetence baffling, or it makes it make perfect sense.
Right.
I don't know which.
Do you say 13 people over 7 months?
Yes.
To make that?
Yes.
Each person on the team just tried to make a different machine entirely, and they ended up with this.
It does look like 3 robots put together somehow. Like it has like the wheel guards of like Dominator 2 or something. It has like the axe trying to be Excalibur, but it's such a knockoff that it's like not even good. And then the body's sort of like Weldor in a way. You look at it from the front, but then
and then it's got Dark Destroyer's face.
Yeah, this is Dark Destroyer and Weldor's fucked up flipper, baby.
And the theme of 2 weapons coming back once again. We have the axe and the punch. The punch.
Yeah,
the CO2.
This is offensively Series 3. It's got a V-mounted pneumatic spike, and its axe is like gravity powered.
The axe barely moves. It like moves in portions.
Yeah, and again, this is another case of the editing team putting that high-pitched banshee noise whenever Sergeant Meekle droops its axe onto Dark Destroyer.
Good God. It's quite fitting, that when a robot's shite when it loses to Dark Destroyer.
And takes damage. Yeah, damage from Dark Destroyer. That's...
I think it says a lot when Sergeant Bash is no longer the robot with Sergeant in its name that is the least effective for weaponry.
Yeah, I think after this performance, Meekle got demoted back down to officer.
I really wanted
If
Sergeant Bash to
that.
attack it.
It's just called Meekle.
Miko got a dishonourable discharge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Jonathan Pierce quote about the weapon saying, it looks like a feather attached to the end of an ostrich leg. It's true.
That was effective.
At
Yeah.
least an ostrich would have a bit of power, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
an ostrich leg's fucking terrifying.
They're tall. Fucking hell. Those can actually do damage if they wanted to.
Like, I know it's easy to say in Series 1 to 3, like, oh, this weapon wouldn't even damage me. But I genuinely think that's the case here. I can't see how this would even damage my open hand without any protection.
The same goes for a lot of the weapons on this list, to be fair.
Like, my nail would provide anti-hammer armor here.
I need to know how much empty space is in Sergeant Meekle, because the thing only weighs about just under 65 kilograms.
Wow.
Jesus.
Like, what is
Well, I
in this
mean,
thing? It's massive.
They just forgot the pneumatic system for the axe.
It must have been, because it's actually quite a big robot, considering how small, how very little it weighs. And it's just this, and apparently got 2 weapons in there as well, and it still manages to be underweight. Like, I mean, I don't know if the mouse that controls the axe needs overtime, or I don't know. He wasn't putting in the right effort.
Good God.
But I think that's probably the worst axe I've ever seen. An axe that takes portions to attack is just why.
Let's just, man. The British Army was really underfunded in the 90s, man.
Clearly.
Wow.
Moving on to our number 2, a powerful lifter spinner combo, which we have never seen before, except I guess maybe in a bad one. Hammertron.
Ooh.
God, Hammertron.
I mean, they had to make hammers with hinges on it, didn't they?
Yeah, I was just about to say, imagine in Series 10 if Carbide's bar was hinged. It had Hammertron's weaponry set up.
After the Gabriel fight, they couldn't replace their bar quick enough, so...
Yeah, I don't know what to say about Hammertron.
There isn't much to say. It didn't do anything.
It went 3 miles an hour. Like,
Well, it went less than that in its only battle.
pretty didn't move, really.
But that says a lot about it, I guess, that it didn't move, and yet it's still bad enough to not feature in our didn't move section. We still need to put it in the main list because it was that bad.
Well,
Yes.
to its credit, it moved maybe... it moved about a metre in its performance, so that's what saves it.
There's literally,
Yeah,
if you say so.
there's
You
literally
just
like-
look at this. You just look at this thing, and you just look at this thing without knowing how well it performed or whatever, and you just know it's not going to be effective. Why is the spinner that far up?
Well, yeah, I mean, in Series 3, like, as a first-time viewer, you could easily think, oh, that weapon looks kind of cool, that might do okay, or, oh, that's an interesting design. But with Hammertron, I don't think anybody anywhere ever thought that could have done anything.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, there's only 2 things I can say positive about it, which is sad. One is it was satisfying seeing dead metal cut through the tracks.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
was fun. I don't know why I get enjoyment out of that. But the thing is, I kind of... It's weird, because they have an idea that's at least different, but it just doesn't work, is the lifting lid with the hammers on it. It's probably why the hammers didn't spin very fast, because a tiny little motor had to fit on the lid. But I liked the idea of them actually thinking about a self-righter, at least.
Well, yeah, again, you think about how in the modern day, spinners have to be so finely balanced to ensure that they don't gyro or go out of control. Imagine Hammertron if it actually had power to its weapon. That thing would just gyro itself out of the arena because of the hinged lid.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully I had no power then.
Yeah.
Than Mauler.
If this thing only cost...
Hammertron versus Mauler.
Also,
when are we gonna get it?
they attempted to make a robot called Armstrong as well. This
Oh.
weird-looking hammer bot thing that I still don't really fully understand what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, and that one didn't even qualify, so imagine how bad that one was.
I know. I mean, it has that kind of weird, like, vector paint style as well, where, like, it's one colour with, like, this bright yellow
Yes.
surrounding
a very series free paint job but nice enough.
I mean, it's okay. I mean, they managed to make, at least for a box on tracks, it wasn't the worst
Well, yeah,
thing.
you can't even use the standard insult of box on wheels because it isn't.
No, I mean, the only other robot I can think that fits that category is Pain from Series 2.
Oh god,
That is a box on tracks.
Did we talk about that on the shipbots of Series 2?
Probably, yeah.
Yes.
The robots that didn't move.
And that is why Series 4 shipbots, we will be covering Mortis at number 1 of shipbots.
Oh, shots fired.
Now, onto our number 1, and really, was there really any other option? It's Death warmed up.
because of course it is.
Team Death Robot, what would you expect?
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I could joke about this being the same robot as last time, but the thing is, this thing only weighed 60.2 kilograms, the same weight as Death War, the same weight as Piece de Resistance, roughly. I think they really did just take the like core of Piece de Resistance and then just put it in this bodywork of 50% fiberglass and 50% wood.
Yeah, I
Worked
think
napalm.
I think it's genuinely the case that they kept the entire internal setup, but they just gave it a new fiberglass shell and then replaced that that lifter, if you can call it that, in Series 2 with
An earthquake saw.
with an earthquake saw. Yes.
I think we could legit do an episode just on how many baffling things are wrong with this thing. It had the earthquake saw and a hedge trimmer between the legs. It had this pneumatic trident at the rear, which either is supposed to be a lifter that's too high up, or it's supposed to strike down, but with less power than Sergeant Meekel's axe, and it just has these casters on the side.
Yeah, they're weird.
Yeah, what are those for?
In case it gets, I don't know, so it doesn't get stuck on its side, but by then it's already dead. So
Chaos 2 tries flipping this thing and it just lands on the casters. Haha, I think not.
I fooled you this time. I mean, this thing's lopsided.
It's fashionable to hate on Team Death's machines, but when their best robot was a thwackbot with the power equivalent to Flip Flop Fly in Series 8, then I don't think it's any surprise that they've won 2 shitbot awards in a row here, unfortunately.
You see, I don't hate on Team Death's robots.
No.
They're
I
too
love
funny
Team
to hate.
Unbelievably shite, but they are unbelievably shite in the best possible way.
That is true, yeah. Like, if you're gonna make a bad robot, at least make sure it can't push down any bricks rather than just breaking down.
Yeah, I mean, if I was making a top 10 favourite team, surprisingly, I would put Team Death in there somewhere. I love the, apart from Metalis, which I find a bit boring, I love this team, and this is my favourite Team Death robot just for how just absurd it is. Because it's so big.
My favourite thing about Team Death is most robots, like the Mammoth team, they just enter knowing they're going to get like fucked up. Team Death never do. They always seem to have just kind of this, like, they just seem to have this kind of
blind optimism.
Yeah, blind optimism is the correct term.
Yeah, that's
But it's really endearing at the same time. Like in Series 2, when they ask the team what they've done to improve the robot, and he's just like, the batteries are turbocharged now, and you can't tell if he's being serious or not.
oh god.
And here it'll be like, oh, the earthquake saw is turbocharged now. It's going to cut through stealth like a knife through butter.
God, the thing is, it was up against Stealth, which was another robot that was actually in the running for this list, because
Imagine if it.
unlike Robogeddon, which was a mildly competent Series 3 robot that just had the misfortune to be drawn against this mighty new spinner, Stealth was genuinely shite, and it only made it to round 2 because
it's the massive shame because Stealth's design is quite lovely, but
it's terrible.
Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing Stealth for now, because I'd hate to have Hypnodisc's run cut short when the splinters from Death Warmed Up get stuck in there.
Yeah, because it's 50% fiberglass and 50% wood.
Can you imagine if Death Warmed Up actually had fought Hypnodisc, though? It would have been fucking disintegrated like it was at the end of Infinity War.
I think the end of the end of Hypnodisc versus Splinter, where you can't actually tell Splinter was a robot at one point. I think that'd be Death Warmed Up, but after the first hit.
You can just imagine Hypnodisc's first attack completely taking out the bottom of the machine, and all that's left is the fiberglass shell.
The head is just...
Yeah.
The head lands on the disc and just gets yeeted out of the arena.
It lands on one of Hypnodisc's back spikes, just as a...
I bet Shunt was really frustrated in its battle against Stealth because it couldn't reach the head on the top.
Look, this is Series 3. Hypnodisc didn't have the spikes.
No, I was talking about Shunt.
Oh yeah.
Because he has a vendetta against faces.
I think the most fitting thing to say about Death Warmed Up is it ends its fight on fire.
Yes.
Literally Death Warmed Up.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
I love Team Death.
And I'm sure they'll grace our shitbots list to come.
Unfortunately, they didn't enter Series 4, so unless we just bring back Death Warmed Up on some... unfortunately, we can't use them for the next slot.
Death Warmed Up, it was so bad. It was so bad, it was the worst robot of Series 4, 5, 6, 7.
Well, actually, I think they actually attempted with him.
We can at least use Immortalis.
Yeah, they tried to attempt Immortalis in Series 4, but they failed to qualify. I wonder why.
Then again, I suppose Immortalis isn't even actually the worst robot in Series 5, is the thing.
Surprisingly, no.
I'm not sure it'll even make our top 10, to be honest.
God, I hope it does.
Like, very low down, though.
It gets the special mention for any Team Death machine.
Yeah. Good God.
Well, I think, what better note to end out on, eh?
Oh God, yes. At long last, it is. It is done. Series 3 is done, thank fuck.
Yes, and next episode will be... I'm not even going to try and figure... whatever it is, it'll be somehow.
In theory, it will be Hypnodisc, but that could very well be thrown off by just, like, Toast deciding to visit someone.
Yeah, Toast is going... Toast is going to visit... I don't know, the Minotaur team. Why not? He goes to Brazil.
or just like the wiki people just get drunk and record a random out of context episode at 5 a.m. again.
The Toast adventure around the world. Where will it take him next?
The Fat Boy Tin episode isn't going to record itself, is it? So
that's true.
Toast goes to Rome and records the Mastiff podcast. But
yeah,
yes,
and that's the thing. He Rome to see Italy in all its beauty. He goes there just to get the atmosphere right for the podcast itself.
Yeah.
well,
maybe we'll record the Onslaught podcast, eh?
Finally. Who knows?
At long last.
Well, it was good having you on, Jim.
You're welcome.
It's always good to get people from other podcasts. Next we'll get, I don't know, Gabriel Stroud, I guess.
I'm the gateway to Gabriel.
Hey, Gabe, do you want to enter Shitbots of Series 5? So, number 1, Sabretooth.
Oh. That's how things it's true.
That is no way to show respect and admiration.
The thing is, we can't put Sabretooth on there because Sabretooth's later exploits are actually worth talking about in full. So
Are they really?
Yes, they are.
Well, until the day that we get Gabriel Stride, we'll have to content ourselves with Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you. I am
Well,
good
go
enough.
Yeah, that's a good enough. That's a good enough note to end this episode on.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Until next time, see ya.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.